Thank you.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We need a motion to accept the regular meeting agenda.
So move.
Second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Public comment. It's going to be difficult to do. Superintendent's report.
So I don't have a whole lot. First day went well. There were some bumps as we expected. I think by Monday we will have all that ironed out. Some of that revolved around busing. Some of that revolved around managing as many students as we had to get in the building, checking temperatures. But for the most part, I thought it went really well. It was congested a little bit in the morning. Some people that probably did not connect to one of the 3 meetings couldn't enter the building until 8 o'clock. So we had some people arriving between 20 of and 8, and that got a little congested. And then at the drop off for 2 through 5, we've solved that. We can actually let them in at 8 now. We thought we would start letting them in at 8:15, and some of them showed up early as well and got a little congested. After school, I think we'll work that out. We go in 2 different routes. You either drop bus kids off and then the 3 locations, or you go the other way. So some parents were waiting a little longer than they had hoped. And I think Pam, we had talked a little bit. I think we're going to dismiss elementary about 5 minutes later. It doesn't really take as long for them to get around the loop as we expected. The BOCES bus was the real problem today. It got held up. So we have 1 student at the extension, JCC extension in Lowville, and they had some issues of getting him out of class and onto the bus. And that's been corrected. The only thing, I guess they're doing some road work in Lowville that our bus has to wait at too. So I think we've solved the JCC problem, but we'll see what the road work is tomorrow. We'll make the adjustment time-wise so that bus is getting back. We had some young kids sitting on the bus for the better part of 30 minutes, which is a little bit long for little ones to be sitting on a bus. So, but I think by Monday we'll have it all ironed out and that will work well. As for the classes, and Nadine and Pam jump in, I walked around and stuck my head in most classes today, and elementary wise, they were like, this is awesome. They're 6 feet apart, so they're not hitting each other, and they're masked some of the time, very calm. I think Nadine might have said, or somebody about the honeymoon period, or maybe Pam. I think that's true, but I do think it's going to be, we've split them all into 3 sections, so they all have less kids. And Nadine, share with high school. I didn't get to see a lot of that, but I think it was too.
In the high school, we're having a modified schedule for the entire first week of school. So, this morning we started out, they had everybody in grade 6 through 12 had a meeting with Scott and me. We talked about what they could expect. And we just kept them in their first period class for the first 3 periods. And then they went to their 4th period class. So basically, this is the week of trying to figure out exactly what this is going to look like. And to be perfectly honest, the kids want to know this information. So they're attentive. They're a little bored, because there's a lot of talking. But for the most part, they're just glad to be in school, and everything that we're sharing with them is stuff they want to know, and they have more questions. So it's been a good day. We have to figure out how to expedite lunch. Lunch took too long. We have to figure out how to expedite that. But once we get that figured out, I really think everything else is going to fall into place.
I think the big takeaway was the safety. I mean, we didn't have anyone not comply with masks. For the most part, social separation, they're at desks, so there really isn't much you can do. So the safety piece of it, and having sanitizer in all the rooms and having arrows on the floor and doing all that, I think we certainly accomplished that goal of making sure that they were safe in school. So that went well. Project is still moving along. Like I mentioned, there's lights going on in the office outside here right now. They've started rolling out the turf. That's quite a neat project to watch. It's really a team effort. They don't do much talking. They all have a job, and they do it in a very timely manner, and they run everywhere. You know, they sew it, and then they run to the next end, and then they flip it over, and then they run back. And I'm thinking that they get paid by the job, not by the hour. Because when you watch people that get paid by the hour, they don't seem to quite work so fast. So I think they must get a certain amount of money for completing the project. So it's pretty interesting to watch. And the rest of it's going well. Everything that we needed done before school started got done. Still waiting on the freezers, bleachers, and things like that. But the building was in beautiful shape today. Nadine wrote a nice thing to faculty today, and I couldn't agree more. Just what went on this weekend. I mean, we had so many people in here this weekend just coming because they want to. One of the guys that does the floors, I mean, he's here yesterday on Labor Day, wanted to put one more coat down so it really looked good. Looked really good before he came, but he wanted to put one more coat down because it was important to him that his floors looked good. And everybody, it reminded me a lot of 10 years ago at the last building project we had. And, you know, when it was Friday of Labor Day and I was like, we can't even open school. And I called Todd from Watchdog and he said, what do you want us to do? I said, I just want the building clean. And the next thing you know, 8 people showed up and cleaned all weekend. So it reminded me a lot of that. You know, it's, you have everything in place, but when push comes to shove, people step up and do what they need to do to accomplish things. So that was pretty cool. Other than that, SED, this was typical. So the governor spoke at 11:30, spoke about the website that was going to track testing and positive testing of students. So we listened to that and like, we really don't know what that means. So at 12:30, an email came from the CDC saying that at 1:30, there was going to be a webinar on how to manage the website. Well, I was one of the few that just happened to see it because most of the areas we were trying to manage the first day of school, you know, and a lot of them, for them, it came around closing because a lot of them are staggering. So 1:30 was when the first group was leaving. So they didn't even get to see it. And it's just, we have to go in and put a lot of data in. It's actually fairly easy for us because we're here 5 days a week. Basically, you have to go in and you have to say on every specific day, how many students are in the building, how many staff are in the building, how many students were tested, how many students tested positive. It was easy. I said there were 0 students tested because we don't test. So, and I'm sure every school in the state wrote the same thing. I still think the governor thinks that we test kids. And maybe there are schools that are doing it. I don't know. I just know in our area, schools are not testing kids randomly. So it may be happening in other places. I don't know. But so it's going to be I hope, check the box thing. You know, we had this many teachers, this many students. We didn't test anybody and there were nobody positive. And that'll just be something we'll do each day before. Today it's due at 3 o'clock. Today they gave us till 5 because they started late. But just the way it was rolled out, we hear it from the governor, and then an hour later we got to be on a webinar, and then, you know, at 5 o'clock we have to have it completed. And there were a lot of people had a lot of really good questions. We didn't because we're all here, but they were like, you know, well, what do you mean? What if there's BOCES people in our building? Because it was kind of a mess, but we'll navigate through it. It's nothing we're not kind of used to when it comes to dealing with all of this in March. So that's really, I do have some more questions, but as for a report, that's all I have.
All right, we'll move on to new business. Superintendent recommends the approval of the recommendations on the committee on preschool special education.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the Family and Medical Leave Act for Scott Randall effective September 30th.
Moved. So moved.
And a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the two substitutes.
Moved.
Second.
Any discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any executive session?
I will. Let me just, before we go into executive, just one thing I want to share with you. We got guidance from New York State Public High School Athletic Association late Friday night. I read it Saturday. It was a 45-page document. And what it comes down to is it's basically the same verbiage that was given to schools. In a sense, they said that we had to socially separate unless it interfered with the core activity. And if it interfered with the core activity, then people had to be masked unless they couldn't tolerate a mask. So if you interpret that as if from any standpoint, I'm thinking of a biology lab where two kids have to work together. You know, that interferes with the core activity. So they don't have to be 6 feet apart, yet they have to be masked. And I think in a school setting, that's not unreasonable to think during a lab experiment they could be masked. But in athletics, you know, so the core activity is teaching how to defend someone in soccer. Well, you can't teach someone how to defend someone 6 feet apart. So you say, okay, we can't do that. So we'll eliminate social distancing and you can get closer, but you have to put a mask on. And then the first kid that comes up in the drill says, Coach, I can't tolerate this mask. And then each kid says that after that. So now you're right back to coaching soccer like we did last year. And you're not violating any of the rules. Yet, you know, we interpreted the school piece of that as putting desks 6 feet apart, masking kids when they got inside of that. So I don't know how you can say that, you know, what the rules we follow in school are different. At 3 o'clock, COVID goes away and we don't do that. What my hope would be, and I know it isn't going to happen, it's just a dream, but if somebody higher above than the school, like the governor, would say that I have rules for restaurants and bowling alleys and all these different things, and I have rules for schools, I'm also going to create rules for interscholastic athletics because they really are different. I understand the school rules. You know, we have many schools have 3,000 and 4,000 kids in a school building. That's where COVID spreads, large group. So I can understand the rules in school being very stringent. But when you step out of school and go onto the athletic field, you're in a cohort with 20 people. And do you have to follow the same exact rules? And if he would say that, it would be very easy to explain to anybody that asked why sports have different rules than school has. But he's given the schools the charge of doing that. And I'm not saying it's okay. I don't know how you can say it's okay. You know, that we have special rules that we made up for school and for athletics. So we're meeting, actually this meeting's at 5 because at 6 o'clock, the state director is going to come on and answer any questions. I don't know what I don't think he's going to have any answers. He's not the one that can make that rule. So I'll be interested to see. We've also, in the process, we received a vote today from Section 3 that we have to turn in by Thursday, and it asks two questions, basically. Do you want to start athletics on the 21st of September and run it by the rules that we read, meaning 6 feet of separation and mask, unless you want to, you know, say what I described, or we can postpone the start of athletics to January 1st. And then at that point, we'll have time to decide. What the state's proposing is we have three 10-week seasons starting in January. So we would have winter season, then we would have fall season, then we would have spring season. Whoever decided that is from Long Island, because if we try to start soccer in March, that's not going to work on the Tug Hill Plateau. So they obviously didn't think of what it was like up here. We couldn't do that. I don't know if there's going to be any kind of ability to move off of that. So say the vote, I suspect the vote is going to be to postpone till January. It only makes sense. Let's figure out how school works first and then do that. But can we do it in a different way? Can we play just, winter sports and spring sports? That would work for us. It would be unfortunate for our fall sport athletes to miss their season, but it was unfortunate for our spring athletes to miss theirs as well. So I don't know. There's all kinds of rules. The state makes rules. The section can have rules that are more restrictive, but not less restrictive than the states. And then the league can have rules that are more restrictive than the section, but not less. And I don't know if we went out on our own and did things differently, if that would even be legal to do. So that's what I plan to ask Robert what that looks like. Can we do something different than they do? But at the end of the day, I think if the governor doesn't, if what I described is the rule, I don't know how we can have, and I guess I'll ask your opinion on that too. What are people's opinion? I totally understand the value of athletics, the emotional trauma that kids go through that don't have that. I get it, but I just don't know. I don't know how we can say it's okay for, after school, but not during school. So anybody's thoughts on that?
Just in your notes on Saturday, that 45-page document, what little bit I saw of it, it just surprises me they would even print something like that.
Yeah.
It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever to say, well, if you can't do this, go ahead and get close to 6 feet, and if they don't like that, then that's okay too. And it was like, seriously, that's not worth the paper it's written on.
Yeah. And I don't, like I said, I understand there's two sides to it. There's the safety of not spreading the virus. And there's, I know some people don't understand the emotional disruption that does to kids, because it really does. I mean, kids, it's important to a lot of people. So to balance those two, I guess as a parent, I would probably allow my child to play, knowing that the coaches are going to be careful, and any drill that they can do a separate, they'll do, and they'll mask kids when they can mask them, but to give them some leeway to say, we need to get out here and run around and play and do it the best way we can and sanitize as much as we can and do all that. I would probably choose to let my child play. Others may not, I don't know, but sitting in the chair I'm sitting in and the chair you're sitting in, I don't know how, as a school district, we can make two sets of rules.
Yeah, that needs to come, like you say, if the governor sets out rules like that or whatever specific, that may make a difference.
And I don't know why. Honestly, I don't know why he can't, because he's made separate rules for everything. Restaurants have separate rules from movie theaters. Bowling alleys have separate rules from fitness centers. All based, like he says all the time, it's all based on science. And the science is the smaller the group and the less social interaction, the better. So what's smaller than a 7-member tennis team? If you're going to be safe, a 7-member tennis team is pretty safe. So I don't know. That's where that is. So anyway, we're meeting. Our ADs are meeting at 8. Superintendents are meeting at 9, and I'm suspecting we'll probably all vote collectively, either to postpone to January or to go ahead with sports now. I feel the ADs are, probably let's go ahead and see what we can do in September. I don't suspect that's going to be, the idea that the superintendents want to do. Just because, at the end of the day, we're the ones that have to answer to the parents that want to know why, we have sports when we can't do some things in school that we'd like to. So that's all I have for that. I do have one executive session matter, and Adam, if you could take us off the public, that would be great.
I have a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
I move.
First and